close of their visit. Mementos ranging from the humorous to the sublime. Say, this is a pretty scene. Looks like one of our vacationing friends. And sure enough, it is. I guess she doesn't realize that outfit she's wearing would scare any respectable trout a mile downstream. Hey, what's this? Looks like she's hooked one. And she has. Well, it just goes to show you. North Carolina streams are kept so well stocked that even an amateur angler has a chance. The state even reserves one trout stream exclusively for women fishermen. Wonder where her husband is. Well, no sooner said than done. Hey, what's he up to anyway? Looks like a little campfire cookery in progress. Let's go over and see what gives. Trout on the fire. Beauties, too. And hot biscuits. Hey, this lad is quite talented. Or if picnicking is more in your line, why not pack a basket and visit one of the state parks or numerous recreational areas set aside for your pleasure? What that keen outdoor air does to the appetite is nobody's business but your own. An interesting novelty is this bridge, built across the highway for the exclusive use of horsemen. Hundreds of miles of bridle paths wind through the forested hills of western North Carolina. If you don't want a horse, borrow his shoes. You can still have fun. Besides mountain streams, the Bass Lakes are popular with inland fishermen. None more so than Lake Lure. In its alpine setting, where swimming, boating, and aquaplaning round out the vacationist package of pleasure.
Torpedoes to port. Torpedoes, dead ahead.
Let's leave the mountains for a while and drive down through the rolling Piedmont into the sand hills. Once an ancient sea covered this country and left behind it the characteristic dunes of golden sand, the dwelling place of the stately longleaf pine, of holly and dogwood. For reasons unexplained by science, the sand hills enjoy an unusually mild climate, crisp, cool nights, sunny, brilliant days. So it's no wonder that for half a century, this region has been a popular winter resort. And it's no wonder, too, that golfers flock to these resorts in such numbers, because even when it showers, the thirsty sand absorbs the water so quickly that in a matter of minutes, a foursome can resume play. Many of today's famous players won their first recognition in tournaments on these championship courses. Riding, fox hunting, tennis, and other outdoor sports can be enjoyed almost every day. The 300-mile coastline presents two distinct realms of exploration. The Outer Banks comprise a maritime wilderness, appealing strongly to the adventurous sportsman and to those who would leave the madding crowd behind. Rough trails lead to Hatteras and Ocracoke, graveyard of the Atlantic, where many a brave ship has met disaster. Coast Guardsmen stationed on this windswept bar have been awarded more Congressional Medals of Honor per capita than any other group. The little fishing village of Hatteras looks peaceful indeed, and it is peaceful. No police, no sheriff, and not even a jail. But the fishing, it's wonderful. In contrast to the isolation of the Outer Banks are the easily accessible beach resorts. Sun and sand and the tumbling surf make these popular playgrounds. There's fishing here, too. In the surf, if you like. Or try your luck from a pier.
Smoke screen set.
But some sportsmen take to the open sea. And there in the indigo waters of the Gulf Stream awaits challenging amberjack, fighting dolphin, the vicious barracuda, Cero, sailfish, bonito, and the incomparable blue marlin. The growing legion of small craft sailormen find in North Carolina's sounds and rivers many hospitable waters for their graceful sport. If you like a little more speed, you might try this one on for size. Better practice up a while first, though. It's not as easy as it looks. If you're wondering how to get off these things, just watch. Simple, isn't it? Still more speed? Here it is, and plenty of it, on one of North Carolina's many broad rivers. As we saw in the mountains, there's plenty of scenery in other parts of North Carolina. In fact, the scenery along the beach is unusually pretty.
Problem solved, sir.
And look who's taking in all this scenery. It's our friends again. They've done what they set out to do, and in one vacation, they've had a glorious week in the mountains and another week of sunshine and fun on the seashore. Wonder how they liked it. Tell me, have you enjoyed your Tar Heel vacation?
We sure have. And we really met North Carolina.
I'm glad you did. I knew you'd like it. Because for fun, in winter, summer, spring, or fall, North Carolina has them all.
Ladies and gentlemen, the picture you're about to see is as important a film document as was ever made by the Army Air Forces. In graphic detail, it reveals the operation use of gliders in the invasion of Normandy, gliders which you helped to manufacture. You will not soon forget this picture. You may even be able to recognize gliders which you built with your own hands. I think you will swell with pride when you see how well they perform, for without them, the invasion of German-held territory could not have been the success it was. Yes, you'll be filled with justifiable pride, and speaking for the Air Technical Service Command and the entire Army Air Force, I want you to know that we share this pride with you. But the job is not yet done. We still need gliders of every description, gliders such as only you can make. In the past, you worked very hard, but now you must work even harder. For out of your toil will come the aircraft we need to speed victory. Thank you.
This is the story of the operation which began the assault on the continent of Europe.
The 9th Troop Carrier Command will transport and resupply parachute and glider elements of the 82nd and 101st Airborne Division and will be prepared to transport elements of the British 1st Airborne Division as directed. The U.S. 101st Airborne Division will begin landing approximately 30 minutes prior to civil twilight on the morning of D-Day to assist the 4th Division in the initial assault and capture the town of Carentan. The U.S. 82nd Airborne Division will land to the immediate west of the 101st for the purpose of preventing the movement of enemy reserves to the east and north.
Simple, isn't it? This mission, which reads so easily, calls for an attack from England on the continent of Europe. Festung Europa, walled in by the formidable defense in depth of the Atlantic Wall. Mined, trapped, bristling with gun emplacements and fortifications. Impregnable barrier, said the Nazis. The combined chiefs of staff decided that frontal assault alone would not crack Fortress Europe. The Atlantic Wall must be vaulted and the cracking process begun from the rear. The initial effort by land, sea, and air would be made in this area, spearheaded by troop carrier and airborne forces. But before the D-Day, there must be a number of lesser D-Days. The first large-scale airborne operation was performed in conjunction with the assault on Sicily, 10 July 1943. Taking off from fields in Africa for dropping zones in Sicily, troop carrier units transported by glider and aircraft, units of the 1st British and the U.S. 82nd Airborne Divisions. Almost a year before this operation, a troop carrier group transported a parachute infantry battalion from England to start the invasion of North Africa. But the invasion of Sicily was the first real test for troop carrier units, which had trained in maneuvers in Texas, the Carolinas, and England. The Sicilian operation indicated there was much to be learned about the planning of an airborne operation. Troop carrier aircraft were shot down by friendly forces, and parachute drops were widely scattered. It was a tactical success, however, rich in experience for the units which would later participate in the assault on the continent. The lesson was driven home that more navigation aids were badly needed, that gliders must be landed at slow speeds, that some type of air brake was necessary to decrease the rate of descent of gliders going into small fields, that protection for the nose of the glider in rough landings should be provided, not only to protect the pilot, but to facilitate unloading. A technique had to be worked out for gliders landing on water. To the lessons of Sicily was added the experience of the highly successful operation in the Markham Valley of New Guinea, in which troop carrier and airborne forces showed the practicability of a well-planned daylight operation. Back in the United States, many lessons learned from the operations in Sicily, Markham Valley, and Salerno were made a part of training and maneuvers. The Griswold nose was developed to protect the glider in rough landings. The parachute arrestor was adopted to permit landing the glider in restricted areas. The intercom between tow plane and glider was introduced. Blitz landings were out. Glider pilots were taught a slow, constant rate of descent, with a slow landing to a precise spot on the ground. Many types of combat aircraft were suitable for towing the CG-4A glider. The B-25 was used. The P-38 performed its task well. And even the PBY became a tow plane. Note the takeoff of the PBY before the glider. Here's a B-17 in dual tow. And a triple tow by a C-54. Airborne aviation engineers trained in anticipation of their probable use for building landing strips and rebuilding bombed aerodromes in France. Troop carrier airplanes are converted in a matter of minutes into ambulance ships.
Torpedoes to port. Problem solved, sir. Torpedoes to port.
And from lessons learned overseas, grew the doctrine expressed in War Department Circular 113, employment of airborne and troop carrier forces. Doctrine was put into practice, and Circular 113 became the blueprint for all future airborne operations.
Airborne and troop carrier units are theater of operation forces. Their employment must be an integral part of the basic plan made by the agency directing all land, sea, and air forces in the operation. The coordinating directive must be issued in time to allow realistic preparation and training by troop carrier and airborne units for the specific operation. Airborne troops must be employed in mass, and the bulk of the force landed in as small an area as possible. The use of highly trained Pathfinder teams dropped in advance to mark dropping zones and glider landing zones is essential. Procedures must be prescribed which will ensure that troop carrier aircraft on course at proper altitudes and on correct time schedules are not fired upon by friendly forces.